Have you ever had so much crap going on in your head that you have no idea? I call it the ADD spin, where you've got 19 things to do. You remember 4 of them. And by the time you're working on the 4th one, you got 9 more going and you got another project and that is what this video is designed to solve. So my name is Dr. Doug Brackmann. I am a licensed psychologist and I am an expert in probably your brain. And if you're watching this video and you've been diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, and I heard the other day, it's not a disorder, it's a difference. So attention deficit disorder is attention deficit difference. And whether you got hyperactivity or not, if you've always felt broken, you always felt like you're something missing or wrong in your world, and you've got this Ferrari of a head, it is, you just might be driven. So welcome home if you are. This is called the brain dump. And I mentioned it in the book Driven. It is a way of actually creating externally what's missing in our head. Actually, nothing's missing in our head. Let me rephrase that. Our brain's wired differently. And 90+% of the population have this nice ball of activity right here called the executive function. And what it does, it sorts information and tunes information out. And so we call it multi-thinking and big picture thinking. We got a couple different ways of measuring it. And if you haven't taken my assessment, the link's below. But it is a gift. So big picture thinking, meaning that we see the world this way, where the farmers or the normal brain sees the world as a series of sequential steps. And so that is really what this video is about, is how to create this external outside of the real world so we can see it with our occipitally dominant brains and feel this wonderful feeling like you get together, like you feel organized internally and externally. So what is missing in our brain is this executive function. And as I said, it tunes information out. And so one of the biggest things in our brain is this capacity to see our whole life at the same time. And at the same time, we hyper-focus in on one part of it, and the rest of it all seems to go away. So I'll jump right into it and just describe it. On Sunday evenings, 1 day a week, Sunday seems to be like a good day, I take everything floating around in my head. I go down a very simple list, and I mention it in the book. You can do really simple. Your whole life is basically finance, romance, and health. In my book, I do friends, family, fitness, finance, fun, and faith. The 6, if you're in EO or any of the other programs, you may have seen the Wheel of Life, which is, I think 11 different things. There's 1,000 ways to slice up your life. I'm going to stick with the 6, friends, family, fitness, finance, fun, and faith. Because what we are famous for, Drivens are famous for, keep it even simpler, finance, romance, and health. We have one that is optimized. We may be workaholics and making a ton of money. Then we have a second category. My relationship's okay. It's good. We're not fighting. We're not this, and then the third one, you're probably 50 pounds overweight because you're ignoring that third category. And so if you think about, the 7 or the 6, friends, family, fitness, finance, fun, and faith, as pendulum balls. One is optimized. The other's completely ignored. Then you got a few in the middle that are kind of bouncing around. And famously, at one point in my life, I was an Ironman triathlete doing long course, doing full Ironmans. And I was so optimally fit. Finance, I was building a new career and that was okay. And I was kind of keeping that in check and getting divorced. And if you think about that, the fulcrum point where all these pendulum balls are swinging is what I'm talking about. Because overall, if you think about what we also are is this shame-based personality, meaning that we identify with our emotion of shame. My life kind of sucks. Yeah, but this area is good. Yeah, but this area sucks. And so if you think about where the fulcrum point is, That's the sucky part of my life, or the kind of the base level of suck. Let's try to move that up. Let's try to move the whole thing up. And how do we do that? Is first and foremost, what's missing in our brain is this executive function. So the executive function tunes things out and also helps us tune into a very specific set of things. We, on the other hand, either see the big picture or we are just hyper-focused on minutia of one little tiny bit. When I was Ironmanning, I weighed myself every day. I did heart rate monitors every day. I took a journal. I wrote down everything I ate. I wrote down every extra, hyper into it, where obviously my relationship was neglected. And so how do we create a system of actually looking at our whole life perspective, and optimize some, but most importantly, how do we keep the ones that we've been ignoring in this okay zone? Meaning that, one of the big things that I teach, other videos about this, of really getting our identity to this place where my external life is okay. And so that okayness is key in understanding this. What does okay mean? It means I'm not going to get divorced. I'm not gaining weight. I am working on something that is actually keeping it either status quo. It's not going to fall apart, but it might be slightly improving. Okay, it's not optimized. We're not going into the 80, into this hyper-driven, focused, crazy land. We are keeping these things in okay zone, meaning that the routine and the discipline to keep getting back on track is there. And I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands at this point of driven people. And we are famous for making commitments and overextending ourselves, making promises that we can't keep. So working up James Clear and Atomic Habits, the point of the Atomic Habits is that an atom is really small. And how do we make a small change and keep it? And that's often the hardest part for drivens, is that we make big changes. Oh my God, I'm going to go to the gym 9 times this week, and I'm going to do this and double workout. And I haven't been in 3 years. You're lying to yourself. You ain't going to do it. Worse is that you'll do that and then forget about the other categories and blow your life up. So that's kind of the framework for this, and really looking at a whole life perspective, and at the same time, really being honest with yourself about what can I do? What is a reasonable thing to do? And this is the struggle for most of us when we're beginning this process, is finding things that are small enough that we can actually keep. And if you watch my meditation, you understand where I start, where everybody starts in meditation is 2 minutes a day. Why is that so important? Why is it so important to make these small little commitments, these little tiny changes, and keep? Why does it have to be so small? Very simply, that the monkey mind, this thing, there's no logical, rational reason to not do it. Again, I'll double down. There's no rational, logical reason to not do it. And I promise you, to make changes, you're going to feel resistance to the change. Oh, I don't have time for that. It's more important that and all of those lies that spin around in the monkey mind, we're in this constant state of forgetting what we need to do or sabotaging. And I say it in a much nicer, one way to say it is everything we do is sabotaged. What? Yes. A nicer way to say that is everything we do, you can do better. And so what does better even mean? So better is where we're looking at the real consequences. And how do we move the fulcrum point up to better? And I always joke, balanced is bull. You cannot have a balanced life. You're constantly in this state of balancing. We're moving these things in very small ways and keeping them so we can move this whole life in a better direction. So that's the framework for it. So a couple key things there to remember. Make the commitments really small. And the bigger picture is they all interact. That is massive. And what do I mean by interact? This is your whole life. That if I don't exercise, I throw water bottles at crossing guards. There's a crossing guard up the street that, God bless her, she lets 3 cars go and then stops. And 3 cars go and then stop. Where there's 9 cars in a row and then no one coming for 5 miles. Let all 9 go and then let all 9 go and then wait and then let them. But she just does this, and by the time I get to this crossing guard, I thank God I've exercised that morning, because otherwise, I can see and believe there's a more efficient way to do something, and that's the way I am. She just is following her routine. Somebody told her to do that, and that's what she does. She doesn't know better. So if I don't exercise, if I don't sleep well, if I'm hungry, if I'm not, all of these other variables all over my life, if I haven't talked, if I'm lonely, hungry, and I'm coming out of the house and waiting, got to get somewhere, and that crossing guard's there, God help her. If I'm on the phone with a friend and we're working on my friend category and I've exercised, I got my fitness going, I got enough money in the bank, that crossing guard doesn't get a water bottle over their head. So they all interact. And if I've exercised, I'm a better therapist and a better friend and a better dad. And so this connection, and if I had, if I'm missing my kids real bad and I haven't spent enough time with my daughters, what happens is I'm not a good therapist and all of these other, so it's all one thing. They're all interconnected. And so that is how sabotage works, is that we optimize one, but then we suck at another. And so we keep this anchor. So we're moving them all up. So very simply, the brain dump exercises, I keep it really simple. And this is coming out of a guy named David Allen, Getting Things Done. You don't need to read the book. You can if you like. I mean, Chat would probably do a real good summary for you. It is a big, thick book, and it is designed to help people like us really to get things done. And he very simply, I'll break it down even simpler, because driven brains love to complicate the crap out of everything. You don't need to create a big spreadsheet and system. Get a piece of paper. Literally, I put the F's across the top: friends, family, fitness, finance, fun, and faith. I'll say it again: friends, family, fitness, fun, faith, and finance. You put it across the top of the paper and you brain dump, meaning that everything, you can rate them first. How is your friends category? Is it a 3? Is it a 9? And you look at it, but then more importantly, you reality check that. Are you talking to friends? Do you have a routine with friends? Are you looking forward to seeing friends? And I rated it a 3, but you know what? My friend category, actually, I talk to a lot of friends all day. And it's like, wait a second, maybe it's not a 3. Here's the key to that. We're taking it out of the emotional realm, because we feel like nothing is ever good enough. And so that accurate, honest assessment of these categories is really what the brain dump's all about. And so being able to see simply on a piece of paper, here's my categories and how is my life going? And finance is relatively easy, one of the hardest for drivens. And what is good enough in finance? You follow Susie Orman, you've got 9 months worth of liquidity saved. You've got, your routine with money, your routine with bills, all your bills are paid. So it's okay. I'm okay. And it's good enough. Then, after you get kind of this accurate look at your life, then you start to see what are the honest, real categories that are down on the bottom end of the pendulum. And you start to make, here's the hardest part of this thing, what is 1, maybe 2 tiny little commitments you can make to start to develop a routine that is simple enough that you can't lie to yourself and say you don't have time, and actually might start to pay attention to. And it's often in fitness for a lot of people. And fitness, I don't have time to work out, whatever. It is not, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times this week and work out for an hour. You won't do it. You won't. So what do? You put on your damn shoes and you walk to the mailbox 3 times a week. Well, that's not enough. And I'll never, exactly, but you'll do it. And as you do that behavior, just like meditation, and you turn everything into a meditation practice, just like meditation, it begins to build this wonderful thing called momentum. And that momentum, movement in action, continuous movement, you build on that. I'm going to walk around the block 3 times a week. I'm going to pay attention to what I eat a little more. Well, I'm going to go on this diet and only eat perfect. Well, you won't do it. I'm just going to pay attention and watch my servings. Well, I'm going to eat 250 calories. No, you're going to just eat a little less. And the next Sunday, when you come back and you get this whole life perspective, your diet goes from a 2 to maybe a 3. And you start to look at all of the numbers across the board and they start to go up. Here's the other key to this. When you're driven, obsessive, compulsive, crazy in one of the categories, you might have to back off a little bit to make time and room for the other ones. And well, I can't let it be. This will very quickly make you very aware of how crazy you are. But more importantly, how overachieving in some areas is actually sabotage. It's sabotage. And when I was Ironmanning, I was working out 30 to 35 hours a week. I didn't have time to date. I didn't have time to go out on relationship, any dating, or had even think about it. So it was this, what am I doing? And not shame on me, what am I doing? No, it's that honest step back of your life and what am I doing? And so, well, I'm going to slow down my exercise. I'm only going to do half Ironman. That's okay. And I'm going to start going out to, clubs or whatever. I'm going to go say hi at coffee shops to girls. And that ability to actually put little things in there that made me feel like I was, getting my together in all areas of my life. It's an amazing, magical moment. The other part of this is this wonderful thing called procrastination. And why do we procrastinate? And I've made other videos about that. They can find them at links above about why are we always looking for problems and blah, blah, blah. It's the way our brain works. And we are addicted to chaos. We are addicted to stress. We are addicted to putting things off until they're, and I've drawn that in other videos, the flow curves where we have performance on this end and then we have anxiety on this end. And we don't move until we're anxious, until we actually feel the pain. And so this is a wonderful way of actually writing everything down. And I'm talking about oil changes and I got to fix that, thing on the roof, and I got to do this, and I got to mow the lawns, and I got to, basic life behaviors. Then you can rate them. All of these things that you put off, and this is where David Allen comes in. I brain dump, like everything I can think of, from calling people back to finishing that book chapter to blah, 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 blah. And then I rate them as have tos, need tos, want tos, and some days. And basic 4 scale, and the have tos, what it is there's a date attached. My taxes have to be done or I go to jail. And there's a consequence. And it is, when I'm shooting this video, it's early February. And so how much of do I have to do it, or do I need to do it, or do I want to do it? I never want to do my taxes. But as the date approaches, it may go from a 3 to a 4. Or a 1 to however you want to do your rating scale. It's going to shift from this need to, want to, need to, have to. And, oil change is another great example of that. You can put off your oil change and put it off and put it off and put it off, put it off. It will turn into a have to. The dentist is another great classic example. Everyone eventually goes to the dentist. Everybody. No matter what, you're going to go to the dentist, but you're way better off when you don't have to go, you need to go, you want to go. And the want tos, actually turn into these other things. So being able to just brain dump everything floating around in your head, honest look at yourself, about the consequences and when it's due. And, so it's urgent and important. And that kind of feeds that, do I have to, need to, want to. Other really important category that drivens often neglect is the some days. Meaning that someday I want to go to Belize. Someday I want to go back to the Amazon. Someday I want to, refinish my floors in my house. And, and we can obsess on those and look at our some days and think, well, I have to do that. No, you don't. But some days are really important for drivens because it is where we get our creativity. And believe it or not, when you get into this habit of actually, what I always joke about, I can do this on Sundays for maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months, and my life gets way too good and I blow it up. Then I stop doing it and then I'll come back and start again. But it is a weird Sunday morning when you wake up and all of your have-tos and your need-tos are done. You're just like, what the heck? And here comes the some days. Someday I'm going to go tick in the garage and go finish that project or whatever. Wonderful to have a someday folder. And, with all my some days, and, I can obsess about Brazil again and keep some cool stuff in there. So it's really important to look at your whole life, and friends, family, fitness, finance, fun, and faith. Faith is a really interesting one, but the fun category, particularly for my workaholics and my crazy people that are just, I don't deserve to have fun. Or even more importantly, when I take a day off, I feel guilty. That is not an option. I have to have something to look forward to, particularly for those of us with this horizoning gene or the dopamine receptor number 4, that I'm always looking over the horizon about when am I going to finally get to this magic finish line. And so that fun category can be, when all my need tos and want tos are done, I can go fill my fun bucket. And having something to look forward to, it's the other joke I always tell, true story. Whoever invented the game, so my daughters are now grown, but when they were little, and whoever invented this game, Sorry, it's literally a little board with a little clicker dice in the middle, and you go like this, you land on something, sorry, and you go back. Makes me like, you sit there. It is a brainless hell category. But playing with my kids was really important and wanted to be there with them. And they loved the game. So a good dad, sacrifices. But if I have something to look forward to in that fun bucket, at the time I was working a lot with Navy SEALs. And so I would go to the pistol range. They stayed open till 10 o'clock. And so my little girls would go down at 7:30. By 8 o'clock, it's like, all right, bye, I'm out of here. But looking forward to that at 3 in the afternoon, all right, I'm going to go tonight, allowed me to be a better dad. And again, how all these things are interconnected. And, I wanted to escape from my kids. Yeah, I wanted to escape from my damn game of Sorry. I didn't want to escape from my kids. And so that ability to see how all these things interact. And again, if I worked out that morning and I have something to look forward to that night, and I've, had a good day at work and my finance bucket's okay. And the most key part of this, and I'll make, there's some other videos that are very similar and that talk about our chronic discontent and really talk about shame that we feel all the time, even with, 20 years of meditation practice and all the body work and everything I do. I still get waves of dopamine deficiency in my D2 and D4, meaning that I get the sense that there's something wrong or missing from my life. And if I use that emotion, all of a sudden I'm, taking on 2 more clients and I'm doing this and I'm signing up for an Ironman and I'm using my emotion trying to get rid of this feeling that there's something missing or wrong. I take my yellow pad and I look at this. You know what? My life's okay. This feeling's not real. And so the bigger picture around, this brain dump and really how this interacts with our necessity to be honest with ourselves and really look at my life. Because when I look at my life and I see it's okay, that's the last bucket. That's called spirituality or faith. Despite my emotional world, my life not only is going to turn out okay and getting better all the time, but it is okay. And so it's a practical spirituality. It's called, gratitude and grace. Grace is another wonderful practice. It feels like I don't deserve the life I have. But I look at this sheet and I have it. How does that feel? That's grace. And so the spiritual bucket, how do I rate that? I always put meditation at the foremost front of my practice. I do a meditation practice every day. I do breath work, I do cold plunge, I do all kinds of crazy stuff. But that is a spiritual practice, which means that it is something that I am disciplined to do, and I'm really not sure what the outcome's going to be. I don't have to meditate. Do I need to meditate? God knows I don't want to. But it is this other category that kind of, I know in my knower. And I've made a bunch of other videos about that. Watch that video. There's a video about really the monkey, the elephant, and the observer, that this is our spirit. And I know in my knower that if I meditate and do these brain dump exercises, that I do these things, I get this more honest look at my life, and I'm able to actually experience a life that I don't feel in my neurobiology I deserve. But I know in my knower I have it. So a lot dumped in this video. We're actually going to be making a book about this, a brain dump book for you guys, and a companion journal for it. We'll put it in a nice, so that's upcoming. I look forward to you guys using it, and thanks.